From the class clown and the prolific public speaker to the bookworm and homebody, today on This or That, we're looking at extroverts versus introverts.
Yes, that's right. When it comes to personality profiles, where do our social skills come from and can they be changed? Our resident psychologist, Sabina, took to the streets to get the lowdown on shy versus showy.
Being an introvert is just someone who perhaps is a little bit afraid of speaking what needs to be spoken.
The main difference is that you're confident in your own skin, extroverts, and maybe a little bit attention seeking.
Do you think that introverts have less opportunities or different opportunities? Is the world catered more towards one or the other?
Yeah, just by design, because they engage less with the world, so naturally they'll get less from it.
Have you ever been in a relationship with someone who's more extroverted than you?
Yeah, and I think in that case it works a lot better. I mean, if you've got two introverts, there's just no talking at all.
I think if you dig deep and force yourself and practice it, you may not be a real extrovert, but you'll be able to be more confident and become more extroverted.
All right, and for more on this, Sabina joins us live from our Melbourne studio now. Sabina, good morning to you. People often refer to themselves or others as being an introvert or extrovert. How do we define introverted behaviour? Let's start with that.
That's right, Larry. So really what we're talking about here is a continuum of behaviour where everyone falls somewhere along the line. So looking at one end of introversion, we define an introvert by really being thought-oriented as opposed to talking. They like to recharge in their own company. That's how they fill themselves up. And really importantly, they're less socially motivated to spend time with people, but that doesn't mean that they don't like spending time with people at all. I think there's a lot of myths out there about introversion, and they tend to talk less and listen more.
Talk less and listen more. Well, it sounds not like someone I know. Is it different to being shy?
It is absolutely different to being shy, and I was just interested hearing what some of the people on the street said to me that during the street talk segment was that people think that shy and introversion is synonymous with each other, but the difference is that people who are introverted may be are not socially motivated to spend time with other people. People who are shy tend to be more fearful of spending time with other people or being in social situations. So they really are very different, and yet we use those words incorrectly, interchangeably.
All right. What traits are found in more extroverted people? How do we define that?
So extroverts tend to need to talk about things to express themselves. They're action-oriented. They like to do things while they're talking and doing and planning all the time. As the opposite to introversion, they are more socially motivated to spend time with people, and with that comes a tendency to talk more and sometimes listen less.
Can you be both, Sabina?
Yes, you can absolutely be both. What we talk about is an ambivert. So an ambivert is someone who has both characteristics of an introvert and an extrovert. And research tells us that about 38% of people are actually ambiverts. So those people, in fact, there's a saying in psychology, the ambivert advantage, because ambiverts are able to really pull from both the best of introverted behaviour and the best of extroverted behaviour and adopt both.
I reckon most people who work in television would be ambipureverts.
I don't know about the purevert.
Oh, ambivert. Don't you reckon? Because you don't carry on like this at home. You don't sit like that with scripts and project and entertain your fam. Oh, you do? Yeah. Don't you think, Sabina? Most other people would be a little bit of both. Like, are
you sometimes quiet?
Totally.
As we said, Larry, more than a third, almost 40% of people are in this in-between space, and yet we're so prone to labelling people. We want to box people. We want to say this person's an extrovert, this person's an introvert, but really behaviour is often not that black and white.
How can we better support introverts and experts, I was going to say, extroverts?
Or ambipureverts.
Or ambipureverts. How can we support all of them on the spectrum?
So how can we support all of us is probably to minimise labelling, and to support an introvert, we need to understand that they like time alone. So we need to know that that's how they're hardwired. We need to allow them time to think and write. So if you're an extrovert with an introvert and you're thinking, come on, I want you to speak to me, give me an answer, and they're processing. So we need to really respect and understand those differences. responses. And for people who are trying to support extroverts, we need to know that they process by talking. They enjoy spending time to people. They're more with others. They're more socially motivated, and they tend to multitask. And I think the important thing here is avoid comparison. So, for instance, in a marriage, you might have one introvert and one extrovert, and the introvert's thinking, why does the extrovert always need to be with people? Why do they keep inviting people over for dinner? Why do we have to have another dinner party in this house?
Yeah.
And just to have that conversation as a couple to say, look, this is what fills me up, but I recognise that it doesn't fill you up. So we need to keep the conversation going between the introverts, the extroverts, the ambiverts, and the ambi-pureverts.
And this is why this relationship works so well, because you're an extrovert, and you fill me up, and I'm an introvert, and
you take everything away from me.
And that's how this works. This is the magic of ambi-pureverts. Thank you, Sabina. Lovely to talk to you.
Thank you, Larry.
It reminds me I have to pick up some ambi-pure on the way home.